What if the things you throw away could become the most beautiful part of your garden? Welcome to Verdant Dreams, where today we explore DIY trash garden ideas that turn waste into wonder. This video has timestamps, so you can jump to the ideas you need. And if you have questions, drop them in the comments. I'll be there. Maybe to you, I'm just another voice on a screen. But behind this content is a real story and a real family. Every like, every comment, every subscribe, it keeps this dream alive. When you subscribe, you're not just supporting a channel. You're helping hope grow. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeing me. In the quiet hours of a late afternoon, when the garden hums with the soft music of bees and the air carries the faint perfume of marigolds, a new kind of magic begins to glow along the borders. The edges of the yard are no longer just pathways, they are painted stories, formed from what once was discarded. Rows of recycled plastic bottles, each lovingly brushed with colors, lavender, mint, coral, and sunlit yellow, catch the light like lanterns of glass. They stand in gentle rhythm, outlining the beds where chrysanthemums sway, asters tilt their faces toward the sun, and sedum autumn joy turns the edges into living tapestries of pink and rust. Children wandering by stop for a moment, their laughter hushed in wonder. To them, it feels like a secret garden, where trash has turned into treasure, where the simple act of painting has brought forgotten objects into a new life of joy. The bottles, lined carefully side by side, do not shout for attention. Instead, they whisper in soft tones, blending with the blooms, glowing in the evening light like jewels set in the soil. Near the fence, a rustic wooden bench invites one to sit, to watch the dance of butterflies and bees, to feel how color transforms not only the space but also the heart. There is a sense of thrift and care, of a gardener who sees beauty where others see waste. Each bottle is a fragment of possibility, reminding us that even the smallest corners of a tiny yard can hold grandeur. As twilight arrives, the bottles seem to shimmer, reflecting the last embers of the sun. The garden border becomes a glowing necklace around the patio, humble yet enchanting. It is not just an edging, it is an invitation to slow down, to dream, to remember that beauty often lies in the simplest acts of transformation. And in that gentle glow, the garden feels eternal. There is a certain poetry in stones, silent and unyielding, yet capable of carrying stories if only we care to paint them. Along the garden's edges, these fragments of earth are reborn into a mosaic, splashes of cobalt, hints of coral, whispers of jade and gold. They rest shoulder to shoulder, each stone a brushstroke, forming borders that are not merely functional but lyrical. Within these frames of color, flowers take their stage. Marigolds burn like small suns, asters scatter starry blooms in violet and white, and sedum autumn joy adds gentle rusts and rose tones as if autumn itself had laid a hand across the soil. The mosaic edging does not shout, it sings quietly, its melody weaving between blooms and pathways, guiding the eyes with grace. On a quiet afternoon, one might sit by the patio and trace the pattern with their gaze. The stones seem like pieces of memory, shards of broken pasts now reimagined, fitting together into something whole. A child running past slows down, curious at the quilt of colors at their feet. To them, it feels like stepping into a fairy tale, where even the earth beneath their shoes tells a story. As the sun leans low, light catches the painted surfaces, making them shimmer like stained glass laid upon the ground. Shadows of flowers fall across the stones, and for a moment, the garden becomes a painting in itself, living, blooming, ever-changing. The rustic pergola nearby holds climbing roses, soft petals brushing against the air, adding fragrance to the scene. This mosaic edging transforms the smallest of gardens. It takes what is plain and gives it rhythm, takes what is discarded and makes it dance. It reminds us that beauty is not born from perfection, but from vision, seeing in the ordinary the chance to become extraordinary. And in these painted stones, standing firm at the edge of every bloom, lies the quiet triumph of imagination. Every garden has a beginning, a threshold that whispers of what lies beyond. Here, it is not a polished gate of iron or a rigid frame of steel, but something gentler, humbler, a pair of old wooden doors, once forgotten, now reborn. They stand together, joined by a simple beam, forming a pergola that feels less like an entrance and more like an invitation. The doors, painted in soft tones of sage and cream, wear their history proudly. Their weathered textures tell of years past, yet with each brush of fresh color, they glow with renewed life. Overhead, roses climb eagerly, spilling blooms that soften every edge, while clematis vines weave delicate tendrils across the beam, draping the structure in living lace. Stepping through this rustic frame feels like walking into a story. Beneath your feet, the pathway is lined with mosaic stones, their colors echoing the flowers nearby: golden marigolds, violet asters, the soft rust of sedum autumn joy, and the gentle nodding of Japanese anemones. Together, they create a chorus of blooms that both greet and guide you deeper into the garden. In the quiet glow of afternoon, the pergola becomes a stage where sunlight plays, filtering through the roses and scattering petals like confetti upon the path. A butterfly pauses on the door's handle, as if it, too, recognizes the magic of this place. Children might imagine it as a portal, a secret doorway into another world where every step reveals wonder. The charm of this entrance lies not in grandeur but in vision. What was once junk, abandoned and weathered, is now transformed into a gateway of beauty. It is farmhouse and cottage, rustic yet tender, a piece of the past given a future in bloom. Each visitor who passes beneath cannot help but slow their pace, for the pergola does more than mark a boundary, it awakens a sense of wonder. And so, the garden begins with a door that no longer closes but opens endlessly, leading to spaces alive with color, scent, and memory. Sometimes beauty emerges from fragments. Pieces once broken and scattered, shards of ceramic too sharp for use, find new purpose when gathered with care. Along the garden's edge, they are reborn as a patchwork path, a quilt made not of fabric, but of stone and glaze. Each tile carries a memory of its past, yet together, they tell a new story, one of color, resilience, and renewal. The path winds gently through the tiny backyard, its borders shimmering with hues of turquoise and cobalt, terracotta, and cream. Sunlight spills across the ceramic surface, and for a moment, the ground feels alive, reflecting light as though it were water rippling beneath your feet. The flowers nearby seem to lean toward it, marigolds glowing like small suns, chrysanthemums spreading their layered petals, and sedum autumn joy offering its russet blooms as autumn draws near. There is a whimsical charm in walking such a path. Every step feels like wandering through a painting, where shapes and colors weave together in unexpected harmony. The imperfections of the broken ceramic become their strength, creating textures and patterns that could never have been planned. It is artistry born from chance, and yet it feels destined, as if the garden had always been waiting for this patchwork to appear. A rustic chair rests under the shade of ivy trailing from a nearby pergola. From here, one can watch how butterflies flicker above the Japanese anemones, their wings mirroring the tile's vibrant fragments. Children might trace the edges with their fingers, marveling at how something once considered waste now sings with life and color. As evening approaches, the patchwork glows softly, its surfaces catching the fading light and holding onto it, like embers at the close of day. The garden transforms into a tapestry underfoot, each tile and flower a stitch in a larger story. What was once broken is now beautiful, what was discarded has found belonging. The ceramic tile patchwork path is not simply an edging, it is a testament. A reminder that even in the smallest gardens, in the tiniest spaces, beauty thrives when we see potential in the overlooked, and when fragments come together to create wholeness. There is a warmth to bamboo that feels both rustic and refined, a material that carries the whisper of nature yet bends easily to human imagination. In the cottage garden, bamboo does not stand wild or untamed. Instead, it becomes a border of quiet charm, painted in hues that echo the softness of blooms nearby. The edging is simple, poles cut to length, their surfaces brushed in pastel tones of mint, lavender, cream, and pale blue. Yet within that simplicity lies a sense of grace. They frame the flower beds not as rigid boundaries, but as gentle companions, guiding the gaze toward marigolds shining gold, asters scattered like stars, and chrysanthemums layered in colors deep and bright. At their feet, sedum autumn joy adds russet touches that hint at the coming of cooler days. The effect is both rustic and playful. Bamboo, with its natural texture, grounds the space, while the painted surfaces add a note of artistry. Children might imagine them as enchanted wands planted in the earth, each holding a secret spell that makes the garden bloom. Visitors pause at the sight, surprised that something so modest could carry such beauty. A rustic wooden bench nearby offers a place to sit and watch the garden's rhythm. The border does not overwhelm, but it frames the scene with quiet confidence. The pergola in the distance, wrapped in ivy and climbing roses, seems to nod toward the bamboo edging, as though acknowledging the harmony they create together. As evening falls, fairy lights strung across bamboo trellises twinkle above, casting soft reflections on the painted poles. The garden becomes a haven, a tiny world of color and texture where time slows and imagination thrives. The bamboo does not seek perfection, it celebrates imperfection, the way each pole is slightly different, each color brushed by hand. In this small corner, bamboo transforms from a simple material into a story of renewal. It reminds us that borders can be more than boundaries. They can be frames for beauty, invitations to linger, and gentle bridges between nature and home. The bamboo cottage border charm is not just edging. It is a celebration of how the simplest things, when touched with care, can make a garden feel alive with wonder. In the forgotten corners of the yard, where space is narrow and sunlight falls unevenly, beauty rises upward instead of spreading out. Old metal drums, once dented and dull, find a second life as towers of color. With fresh coats of paint, coral, teal, ivory, or sage, they stand like proud guardians of the garden, each one a pedestal for blooms. From the tops of these drums, flowers spill in abundance. Marigolds glow in golden cascades, chrysanthemums spread their layered petals in rich autumn hues, while asters scatter soft purples and whites, like starlight captured in the soil. Sedum autumn joy drapes its rosy clusters, and trailing vines tumble downward, softening the edges of steel with living lace. What was once industrial and harsh is now softened, remade into sculpture and sanctuary alike. The towers draw the eye upward, teaching us to see the garden in dimensions we might otherwise forget. In a tiny backyard, where every inch is precious, the drums become stages stacked with color. They are thrifty, yes, born from necessity and resourcefulness, yet their effect is grander than any purchased planter. Each drum tells a story of transformation, of junk turned jewel, of waste turned wonder. On a summer evening, the patio glows under strands of lights. The painted drums shimmer faintly in the warm glow, while the flowers crown them with brilliance. Children press their hands against the cool painted surfaces, marveling at how something so ordinary could rise into something so extraordinary. Visitors pause to admire, their steps slowed, their voices hushed, as if entering a gallery where art is alive and blooming. These flower towers are not monuments to wealth but to imagination. They prove that beauty does not ask for perfection, only for vision and care. Each drum holds not just soil and roots but a reminder: the garden is not measured by size, but by spirit. And in this spirit, the thrifty drum flower towers stand tall, proud, painted, and blossoming, marking the space not as small or constrained, but as endless, alive with creativity and color. In the heart of a small patio, where space is scarce yet dreams run wide, blossoms appear in unexpected forms. They are not petals born of the earth, but of human hands and vision, plastic bottles, cut and painted, reshaped into flowers that smile alongside the living blooms. Each bottle is a burst of color, turquoise and lavender, sunshine yellow and coral pink. Together, they form a playful edging, framing the patio with a ribbon of joy. From a distance, they shimmer like stained glass. Up close, they reveal the ingenuity of recycling, where trash no longer hides in shadows but shines proudly in the light. Marigolds beam golden at their side, chrysanthemums unfurl in layered hues of crimson and ivory, and asters scatter starry blossoms in soft purples. Japanese anemones sway in the breeze, their elegant simplicity balancing the bright cheer of the plastic blossoms. Together, the real and the reimagined form a harmony that feels both whimsical and whole. Children are often the first to notice. Their fingers reach out, tracing the smooth painted edges, their laughter carrying into the garden as if these blossoms were part of a secret world. To them, it is proof that beauty does not always grow, it can also be created. The patio becomes their stage, a place where color and imagination bloom hand in hand. As dusk falls, fairy lights strung above cast a gentle glow, and the bottle blossoms catch the light like jewels. Their painted surfaces reflect tiny sparks, twinkling beside the flowers as if the patio itself were celebrating. Visitors cannot help but smile, charmed by the unexpected pairing of thrift and artistry, of simplicity and enchantment. The tiny patio plastic bottle blossoms remind us that even the smallest spaces can hold wonder. They prove that creativity thrives not in abundance but in vision, that a patio barely wide enough for a chair can still become a canvas of delight. And as one lingers there, surrounded by blossoms both natural and crafted, the lesson becomes clear: beauty is everywhere, if only we choose to see it. Fences are often built to keep the world out, but here, they welcome life in. Along a rustic wooden fence, junk once forgotten is reborn as planters, each one a vessel of charm. Old buckets, enamel pitchers, battered tins, even half-cut drums, once cast aside, now painted in farmhouse shades of cream, sage, and rustic red, hang proudly, filled with blooms that spill like laughter into the garden. The fence becomes more than a boundary, it is a gallery. Marigolds blaze like suns in their tin cradles, chrysanthemums unfold layers of color with generous grace, while asters scatter their purple starlight from chipped enamel mugs. Sedum autumn joy softens the corners with rosy clusters, and vines tumble downward, painting shadows against the wooden slats. From a distance, the effect is both humble and enchanting. What once was junk now sings in harmony, turning the fence into a wall of life. Neighbors pause to admire, surprised that something so ordinary could bloom with such imagination. Children point out the oddities, a kettle here, a crate there, delighting in the playful mismatch that somehow feels perfectly at home. At dusk, the fence glows beneath strands of fairy lights. The painted surfaces of the planters catch the glow, reflecting warmth into the evening. The flowers seem to lean closer, their colors deepening in the soft twilight. It is no longer just a farmhouse fence, it is a story of second chances, of objects reborn, of creativity stitched into the seams of daily life. There is a comfort in this charm, a reminder that beauty need not be polished to shine. Each planter carries history, each bloom adds a note to the chorus, and together they create a symphony that fills even the smallest backyard with abundance. The farmhouse junk planter fence whispers of resourcefulness, of seeing the overlooked not as waste but as possibility. It stands proudly as proof that fences can do more than divide. They can blossom, they can inspire, and they can transform a space into a place where life grows freely, colorfully, and without end. In a quiet corner of the garden, the illusion of water flows where none is found. Shards of ceramic, once broken and discarded, are reborn into a stream that winds gently through the soil. Painted in shades of deep blue, aqua, and white, they mimic ripples and waves, carrying the eye along their path as though guiding a river through the heart of the garden. This Japanese-inspired stream is not made of water but of vision. It glimmers under sunlight, the glazed surfaces catching the light like droplets frozen in time. Around it, flowers lean close as if drawn to its song. Japanese anemones bow gracefully at its edges, their pale petals mirroring the calm of flowing water. Sedum autumn joy adds clusters of muted rose, while marigolds blaze bright, like lanterns floating on the surface of an autumn river. Stepping onto the patio, one feels a sense of stillness. The ceramic stream is more than decoration, it is meditation. It reminds us that flow is not only of rivers but of imagination, that even in the smallest backyard, one can create a place where the spirit drifts gently like leaves on water. Children see it differently, their eyes wide as they follow the ceramic path, convinced it hides magic in its painted depths. Nearby, a bamboo pergola offers shade, its beams entwined with ivy. The stream seems to lead toward it, as though inviting visitors to pause, to sit, to listen to the silence between birdsong. Butterflies hover above the chrysanthemums, their movements as fleeting and graceful as the shimmer of the ceramic below. As twilight arrives, the painted shards glow softly, catching the last golden rays of the sun. The garden feels transformed, not larger, not grander, but deeper, as though the simple addition of a stream has opened a door to tranquility. The Japanese garden ceramic stream is a testament to imagination's gentle power. It shows that broken pieces can create harmony, that stillness can be painted, and that even in a tiny garden, serenity can flow like water. Along the edges of the garden, where boundaries usually hide in shadow, bursts of color rise unexpectedly. They are not made of wood or iron, but of humble porcelain pipes, once plain and overlooked, now reborn with splashes of paint. Standing upright in tidy rows, they form a fence that is less about division and more about celebration. Each pipe wears its own shade: turquoise that mirrors the summer sky, crimson that burns with life, sunflower yellow that catches the light like flame, and mint green that soothes the eye. Together, they create a rhythm of color, playful yet orderly, guiding the gaze around the garden like the notes of a cheerful song. Within their embrace, flowers bloom with equal joy. Marigolds lift their golden faces, chrysanthemums unfurl in layers of autumn richness, and sedum autumn joy offers rosy clusters that soften the bright tones of the painted fence. Japanese anemones nod gracefully nearby, their pale blossoms adding balance to the vivid palette. The border does not clash, it sings, blending painted strokes with living petals. Children are drawn first, their laughter echoing as they trace the fence with their fingertips. To them, it is a rainbow wall, a magical boundary that turns even the tiniest yard into a place of wonder. Adults linger too, surprised at how simple pipes, commonplace, even discarded, can hold such charm when given color and care. At sunset, the pipes catch the last light, glowing softly as shadows stretch across the garden. The fence becomes a frame, holding the scene like a painting. A rustic bench beneath a pergola offers a perfect vantage point, where one can watch as butterflies hover above the blooms and fairy lights flicker to life above. This color-splashed porcelain pipe fence is more than edging. It is proof that imagination has no limit, that the mundane can be made magical. In every painted pipe stands a reminder: beauty is not about material or cost, but about the willingness to see possibility where others see waste. And in that willingness, even a fence becomes a festival of joy. A gazebo is often the heart of a garden, a place where time slows, where shadows soften, and where flowers gather to tell their stories. Around its wooden frame, stone edging brings quiet order, forming a circle of beauty that both anchors and celebrates the blooms within. Each stone, carefully placed, becomes part of a rhythm. Some were the pale cream of farmhouse charm, others glow in sage green or whisper of sky blue. Together, they create a frame that is simple yet enchanting, a patchwork of earth and paint that guides the eye and shapes the space. The edging does not shout for attention. Instead, it holds the flowers as one holds a cherished memory, gently, lovingly, with care. Within this circle, life unfolds. Marigolds burn bright like little suns. Chrysanthemums unfurl their layered petals in shades of amber and crimson, and asters scatter their starlit blossoms. Sedum autumn joy blushes with rose tones as the season leans toward cooler days, while Japanese anemones sway in soft grace, their pale blossoms nodding in the breeze. The gazebo becomes more than a structure. It becomes a stage where color performs and fragrance lingers. Visitors pause here, drawn to the serenity of the scene. They sit beneath the shade of climbing roses that weave across the beams, petals drifting down like gentle confetti. From this vantage, the stone-edged beds appear as living frames, holding each bloom in place yet allowing them the freedom to dance in the wind. The garden feels whole, complete, and timeless. As twilight approaches, the painted stones catch the fading light, glowing softly as if warmed from within. The gazebo hums with the quiet of evening, a place for whispered conversations or silent reflection. Fireflies appear, their glow echoing the shimmer of the stones below, weaving magic into the gathering dusk. The gazebo stone bed edging is not just practical, not just decorative, it is a bridge between structure and nature, between permanence and bloom. It reminds us that beauty lies in harmony, in the way stone and flower, wood and vine, light and shadow all come together to tell the same story, that even in the smallest garden, there is room for grandeur. At the edge of the garden, where soil meets path, the sea finds its echo. Bottles, once emptied and forgotten, are gathered and painted in hues of ocean, deep cobalt, shimmering turquoise, soft seafoam, and pale sandy beige. Set in the earth, they rise and fall in gentle curves, a border shaped like waves frozen mid-motion. In sunlight, the bottles gleam like water under sky. Their painted surfaces catch every ray, reflecting blues that shift with the hour. Children pause to trace the curves, their imaginations carried to distant shores, where waves roll endlessly and shells scatter the sand. Here, in the smallest backyard or patio, the sea has been brought home. The flowers lean toward this bottled tide as though they, too, are drawn to its rhythm. Marigolds burn like the sun setting over water, asters bloom like stars reflected on a midnight sea, and sedum autumn joy adds a soft blush of coral, like seaweed swaying in shallow tide pools. Japanese anemones, pale and delicate, resemble foam cresting at the wave's edge. Together, they create a harmony that feels both grounded and boundless. Visitors often smile at the sight. A simple bottle, repurposed and painted, becomes part of something larger, proof that even fragments of trash can transform into poetry when imagination guides the hand. The border does not merely frame the garden, it tells a story of journeys, of tides, of horizons that stretch far beyond the fence line. At dusk, when the sky glows pink and orange, the bottles shimmer as if alive. They seem to ripple with light, the painted waves blending with the shadows of evening. It is a gentle illusion, yet powerful enough to transport the heart. The garden becomes more than a space of soil and bloom, it becomes a seascape, alive with memory and dream. The seascape bottle wave border whispers of freedom, of endless horizons found even in tiny yards. It reminds us that beauty is not confined to grand landscapes. It can be shaped from what we already have, painted with vision, arranged with care. In the wave of bottles at the garden's edge lies the eternal song of the sea. In the gentle shade of the garden, a new kind of seat waits, not carved from stone or crafted from polished wood, but born from something humbler. Metal drums, once heavy and forgotten, are given a second life. Painted in cheerful hues of mint, lavender, sunflower yellow, and coral, they rise from the soil as benches, small yet filled with charm. Children are the first to claim them, their laughter echoing as they hop from one to the next, delighted by the playful colors. To them, the benches feel like candy dropped among the flowers, sweet and bright. Adults smile too, surprised that something once so plain could transform into a place of comfort and joy. Around the benches, life blooms in abundance. Chrysanthemums spread their layered petals in fiery reds and soft ivories. Marigolds glow with golden light, echoing the brightness of the painted drums. Sedum autumn joy, with its rosy clusters, softens the edges, while asters scatter delicate star-shaped blossoms in purples and blues. The garden is alive, not only with flowers but with places to sit, to linger, to share. Even in the smallest patio or front yard, these benches create gathering spaces. They are thrifty yet thoughtful, whimsical yet practical. With cushions placed on top or left bare in their glossy paint, the drums offer both function and beauty, inviting visitors to rest. Beneath a pergola wrapped in climbing roses, the scene feels like a cottage fairy tale, a place where every object tells a story of renewal. As twilight falls, fairy lights sparkle above, their glow mirrored on the painted surfaces of the drums. The benches seem to shine softly, blending into the evening's warmth. Friends gather here, teacups in hand, conversations drifting like petals in the air. The drums, once overlooked, now serve not only as seats but as symbols of creativity's quiet magic. The cutest painted drum benches remind us that beauty is not bound by cost or convention. It thrives in vision, in the courage to see potential where others see scrap. In every painted surface, in every bloom that leans close, lies a reminder that even junk can be reborn into joy. There is something timeless in bamboo, a quiet strength softened by its graceful form. When shaped into a pergola, it becomes more than structure, it becomes sanctuary. In the heart of a small garden, a bamboo pergola rises, rustic yet elegant, its poles bound together with care, its beams stretching outward like open arms. Around it, flowers climb eagerly. Roses twine through the beams, spilling their petals like whispers of color, while clematis vines weave delicate patterns that soften every line. Beneath this canopy of green and bloom, the pergola becomes a stage where nature performs, each season offering a new display. At its base, the earth hums with life. Chrysanthemums bloom in layers of ivory and crimson, marigolds glow golden against the bamboo's gentle tones, and asters scatter star-shaped blossoms in soft purples and blues. Japanese anemones bow in quiet grace, their pale petals catching the light, while sedum autumn joy deepens in rosy hues as autumn arrives. Together, they form a living frame, grounding the pergola in color and fragrance. In the hush of afternoon, a wooden bench beneath the beams invites rest. The bamboo creaks softly in the breeze, a gentle reminder of its roots in the forest. Visitors pause here, drawn not by grandeur but by the serenity of simplicity. Children chase butterflies that dance near the blooms, their laughter drifting upward, mingling with the rustle of leaves. As twilight descends, fairy lights woven through the beams awaken, glowing softly against the bamboo's natural texture. The pergola shifts into a lantern of warmth, its rustic frame holding both light and shadow. Conversations linger longer here, teacups resting on wooden tables, while the fragrance of flowers hangs sweet in the evening air. The rustic bamboo and flower pergola stands not only as a garden feature but as a testament to vision. It shows that beauty can be built from the humblest of materials, that strength and grace can exist side by side. In its quiet presence, it reminds us that gardens are not just places of growth but places of gathering, of dreaming, of belonging. And beneath its beams, time itself seems to slow. As daylight fades and shadows stretch across the garden, a quiet magic awakens. Along the borders of the flower beds, ceramic lanterns glow gently, their painted surfaces catching the flicker of flame within. They stand like guardians of light, edging the pathways not with stone or wood, but with warmth. Each lantern is unique, some brushed in soft lavender, others in creamy ivory, still others in vibrant shades of cobalt and coral. Together, they form a rhythm of color and glow, guiding footsteps as the evening deepens. What once might have been broken shards of ceramic have been reshaped, reimagined, into vessels that carry both fire and beauty. The flowers lean into the light as if enchanted. Chrysanthemums reflect the lantern's golden glow, their layered petals shimmering in the dusk. Marigolds burn brighter, their fiery blossoms echoing the flicker of the flames. Asters scatter their purple stars into the night, while sedum autumn joy and Japanese anemones soften the edges with their calm presence. The garden seems alive with both bloom and flame, each enhancing the other's glow. A rustic pergola nearby, wrapped in ivy, becomes a silhouette against the sky, its beams touched by the lantern light. Visitors pause here, drawn not just by the flowers but by the atmosphere, the sense that this is not merely a garden, but a sanctuary. Children point to the lanterns with wide eyes, enchanted by the way shadows dance upon the earth. Adults linger too, sipping tea or wine, letting conversation flow gently in the glow. As the night settles, the lanterns take on a deeper beauty. They do not overpower but illuminate softly, like whispers of stars brought down to earth. The edging becomes a pathway of light, a necklace of gentle flames that both frames and transforms the garden. The landscape edging with ceramic lanterns is more than decoration. It is a meeting of fire and earth, of craft and nature. It proves that the edges of a garden need not only mark boundaries, they can guide, inspire, and enchant. And in their glow, the smallest yard feels infinite.